What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update. We're going to go into the last 24 hours of Tottenham news. We're going to start off talking about an injury update, both to Romero and Vicario. Starting off with Romero, and it's not good news, as Gaston Edel says Cuti Romero has a muscle injury, not in his foot, as he recovered from that injury, and he'll be out for 6 weeks, which is not good news by any stretch of the imagination, which means that he's going to miss Liverpool at home, Forest away, Wolves at home, Newcastle at home, Tamworth in the Cup, Arsenal away, Everton away, and then potentially be back for Hoffenheim or Leicester.
Yeah, it's gutting. Can't seem to catch a break at the moment, can we, when it comes to injuries? Look like maybe we'd start to turn a little bit of a corner when Van de Ven and Romero got back into the team against Chelsea, and yet again we've been hit with a blow, and it's the fact that it's a separate injury as well is gutting, and he must have, I guess, really strained it in one of his actions against Chelsea, because as you say, it was a new injury, it wasn't a reoccurrence. I know Ange came in for a bit of heat for rushing these centre backs back. What's it called? A lot of people accusing him of that, but there's nothing you can really do about that. You know, they got to be back if they're fit, and he supposedly was fit for this game, and he's pulled up with a separate injury. So it's gutting. Dragoshin's going to have to step in. At least Van de Ven's back, which is, I mean, he went off as well, but it seems as though we'll go into that in a bit. But it seems that he's okay. But we're going to lose. We're not going to have Romero's kind of passing ability and ability on the ball that we know that he's got and adds so much to the team. But Dragoshin has been all right past few games, to be fair. Albeit I don't think it was amazing against Chelsea, but I think he's been all right, so hopefully he can step in.
But you know what? It just puts extra strain on these centre-backs now, because without Romero for the next 6 weeks, you've got
Davis as well.
And Davis is out as well for, I don't know how long, but quite a while. You've got two natural fit centre-backs in Van de Ven and Dragoshin. You've got Archie Gray who can fill in there, but let's be honest, we don't really want him to fill in there. Van de Ven, we know he can't play every game, otherwise there's going to be a recurrence of some sort of hamstring injury. So that means that in some games, probably in the Elfsborg game, potentially in the game against Rangers and maybe even Hoffenheim, surely we can't see it in the Premier League, but we're going to have to play a back two probably of Archie Gray and Radu Dragoshin.
Yeah, and there's not many other options unless we want to turn to the academy, you know, unless we want to turn to someone like Dorrington or someone like that. But at the moment, we're really we've run out of options. And if one of those two now, Dragoshin or Van de Ven, pick up an injury, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble because before, even though we weren't that happy with it, you know, we still had Davis who did well when he came in, and now we don't have that fullback option. So, I mean, January can't come soon enough when it comes to getting reinforcements in that area, for sure. I
wonder if it's a possibility to recall Ashley Phillips.
Maybe we should something we should consider.
Yeah, well, I just don't know. I don't know if it's not, an option or not. But if it is, it's surely something that we should be strongly considering.
I think so as well. Apparently, he's started the last few games as well for Stoke and doing pretty well. Apparently, he's in good form. So, at the moment, needs must, essentially, with Romero out for so long. So, yeah, it's gutting. It's gutting because we need him. We need that, his ability on the pitch, and having it missing for another extended period of time after just coming back. We saw 15 minutes and we were 2-0 up against Chelsea for those 15 minutes. So we caught a glimpse and now it's gone again. Yeah. Basically blink and you'll miss it, essentially, at
Pretty
the moment.
Much.
And yeah, it's not great.
Imagine if you came 15 minutes late to that game and you're like, well, I thought Romero was...
Sorry, you have to wait another 6 weeks, mate.
So frustrating. In terms of Vicario, Dan Kilpatrick has given us an update on Vicario, saying that he's expected to return from his fractured ankle in February. So not long after Romero comes back, you'll see Vicario coming back. So February, so that means he'll miss the games I just mentioned before, plus the Leicester game, plus the Elfsborg game. And the first game in February is Brentford away.
Yeah, so it might not even be that. Maybe it'll be mid-February. We don't know exactly when. But obviously, Forster's come in and done pretty well. I don't want to discard him because I don't want to say we've been struggling without Vicario, because Forster's done really well, but we still miss an element with Vicario, without Vicario, for sure. Obviously a bit more comfortable on the ball when he's playing out the back. Even in the short sample size, we've seen a few mistakes from Forster. Not that Vicario was blameless in that element too, because he's also made a few mistakes playing out the back. Before Forster looked a bit shaky. I also think there's been maybe one or two goals that, not that they're big errors from Forster, that maybe Vicario could have got to, that Forster didn't, but we're going to have to cop it. To be honest, I'm starting to think we're not going to sign a keeper in January. I'm starting to think we're just going to persist with Forster because he's done well. So it's unfortunate again. We know he was going to be out for a while. In fact, February is probably a bit of relief because we were thinking it could be March and maybe beyond that. So it's going to be February, and again, we look forward to him coming back.
Yeah, we're just going to have to cop it, mate. Let's talk about potential transfers. Ali Gold brought us something pretty interesting yesterday, saying that at this stage, Tottenham would likely accept a decent bid for Yves Bissouma next summer if it arrived. Just how motivated the player would be to leave the club with only 1 year left on his contract could prove to be a roadblock to any possible transfer, which is an interesting one because, you know, cast your mind back to the summer. I was pretty consistent in saying that, you know, I think Spurs should listen and look beyond Yves Bissouma because I don't think he's been good enough for this football club. I think probably this season, in terms of a consistent level of performance, probably been his best period in a Spurs shirt. Step backwards against Chelsea because I thought in a couple of goals he was horrific. But look, don't take away from the fact that he's had a decent season for Spurs this year. However, having said that, I do think Spurs need to be looking beyond Bissouma because I just don't think he's shown the levels that we need in that position.
Look, I think he's a good player. I think he is a good player who definitely a Premier League quality player and a very good defensive midfielder. I just feel like he's a good player with just brainless moments and clearly has quite poor footballing IQ. And I think when you're playing in that number 6, especially in our system, you just need to be very disciplined and you need to be concentrating all the time. And we've given Bissouma chance after chance at this point, and he just can't seem to do that all the time. Even in games where he's played well, there's moments where he overruns the ball and he doesn't keep his concentration and he does things out of frustration. And then obviously he had a brain fart like he did against Chelsea, which isn't the first brain fart he's had in a Tottenham shirt. That's for sure. You cast your mind back to diving when he's on a yellow card and things like that. Like, he just does things which are just inexplicable, which you can't really explain. And it's not because of how good of a player he is or isn't, or his ability. It's just about mentality and about just sometimes not thinking about things and just doing things on instinct. And sometimes when he does things on instinct, that's when he's at his best, you know, gliding past people, going for that risky kind of when he runs into space and those kind of things. But, you know, and these are the points where it works against him. And I feel like when you're comparing someone like Bentancur is so much more measured. Maybe you could argue Bissouma has more ability, but Bentancur has a bit more discipline. He's a bit more measured. He thinks about things. He doesn't make as many brainless moments. And I think that maybe can be frustrating, especially for a manager like Ange, where you prepare a team and Bissouma will just do something inexplicable sometimes, and it costs you, you know, a penalty like he did on Sunday. So when he's coming into his last year of his contract, I think, to be honest, the position of the club, I think last summer, was already that if there was a good offer, he would come in. A good offer would come in, he would accept it. And obviously, maybe the price was probably, you're probably looking at 40 million probably last summer. That's probably going to have to be cut this summer because he's on his last year. And if we get a chance to upgrade, I think we should take it. It's not an easy to upgrade on him because I do think he's a good player, but I think that's what we got to do. I think he needs upgrading at this point because he's proven time and time again at this point that he can't keep his concentration for 90 minutes. And if that's the case, he's going to need to be upgraded.
Yeah, I think it's clear what direction the club want to go in my opinion. I think it will be to try and offload Bissouma in the summer to make way for Johnny Cardozo. You know, 25 million for Johnny Cardozo. We paid 25 million for Bissouma, and I think if an offer around that ballpark figure comes in, they'll probably accept it.
Agreed. Maybe something. I mean, we accepted about 20 million euros for Højbjerg, so maybe because I think Bissouma's a bit younger, maybe with a bit higher ceiling, you probably want a bit more than that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not too dissimilar, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, the guy's 28 already. Like, he's not a youngster anymore to make these stupid mistakes. He's supposed to be one of the more experienced players in the team, and to keep like going back to these moments, it's just not good enough. As much of a player he can be on his day.
I was watching Ali Gold's video yesterday, and there was a point that really struck with me, like, because he put this Instagram post, Bissouma, out, didn't he, after the game, saying, you know, I'll learn from this, and it was a mistake, and you'll see the real Bissouma. And he was like, you're 28. What do you mean you learn from this? You should have learned by now. You are 28 years old. You're getting this close to 30. This should be your prime. This should be where you're at your peak and like where you're basically at your best. And like, if you haven't learned it by now, it's hard to think that after 28 you're going to all of a sudden learn how to keep your concentration.
And it's a shame as well because I was so excited. Well, we both were when we signed him off Brighton. You know, he was one of the up-and-coming leading midfielders in the Premier League at that moment in time. Such exciting ability on the ball. And every time he seemed to play us, he seemed to play us off the park. And it just hasn't materialised, has it, to what we expected?
No, I think we thought he would be a lot more consistent, and we thought he'd challenge some of the top midfielders in the league, and that hasn't happened. Not to say I think he's been terrible or a massive flop. I just think he hasn't been at the level we thought he'd be.
I don't think he's been anywhere close to the levels that we thought he would be.
I think he's been good. I think he's been fine.
But we thought he was going to be exceptional.
Exactly. So that's the reality when he hasn't been.
Let's talk about January plans. Dan Kilpatrick says that signing another forward in January is a priority for Tottenham. But then again, he also says that with Spurs short of cover at both centre-back and left-back, a player who could cover in both positions may emerge as a priority target in January. Let's hope we can get both.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, knowing with Tottenham, we usually can't do two things at once. But look, we need a forward desperately because with Richarlison, Odegaard out for long periods. Werner not really cutting it. Overplaying Brennan, Solanke, potentially Son as well. We do need another forward player who can really contribute, because I think if we got that, then I think the goal output would increase even more, and that would be really helpful. But obviously, with the injury now to Romero, we are very much as well, and also overplaying Udogie because he's pretty much playing every game at the moment. We desperately need cover in that position as well. So both should be seen as a big priority for sure. I understand January is a really difficult window. And it's difficult to really get your top targets, and you have to get players who at teams a lot of the time who aren't really, either you pay a premium or you get players who aren't really in their side at that point and looking for a move. So we're going to have to scout the market. One interesting thing is I've just read a report that Newcastle might be going in for Bakayoko in January, and if they believe they can get in, why can't we hijack that deal? Maybe that's something we could look at, and if that kind of calibre of players available in January, then we'd be stupid not to try and take it, I think. But I also understand that for everyone, it's not just Spurs. January deals are, in general, you don't see too many big deals happen in January. Maybe in the past you did, like Fernando Torres, but I feel like those times are a bit in the past. I don't remember too many big deals. We have done it, Bentancur, Decky came in January. We got Dragusin for 30 million in January. So it's not impossible, but we know it is just naturally a lot more difficult, and logically it makes sense.
Don't forget Louis Saha and Ryan Nelson. Don't forget those incredible transfers. But look, I think if a deal can be done for Bakayoko, he's one I wanted in the summer. So if we can get him in to give us a boost from now until the end of the season, for the foreseeable, I think it'll be something brilliant to do. He's got such ability on the ball. His one-on-one dribbling against his defenders is brilliant, and I think he would suit this system down to a T.
And he's not one like Werner where you just feel like he's a stopgap. He's one who you see who could be part of the squad for a long time, and he's also one I hope he might have been earmarked as well by the scouting system that could really fit the system. So I think he's one that I'd be very interested in.
However, it's Newcastle going for him, not us. So
yeah, true. It's not us, but hopefully, maybe. I think that's why a lot of the time Tottenham said a lot of their deals they keep under wraps because they don't want it to be hijacked. And maybe now that it's potentially out there that they could be going for him, maybe that's put other clubs on alert, and hopefully us. Yeah,
we've been known to hijack a deal or two in recent years.
We have.
Last but not least, an interesting story about Jonathan David from a publication called Sport. They say Tottenham have made a large financial offer for the Lille striker Jonathan David and want to agree a pre-contract deal in January ahead of him becoming a free agent in the summer. Spurs are prepared to wait, but not for long. So they're saying Spurs have offered Jonathan David a large contract.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I believe it, but I hope to believe it because I think that makes a lot of sense. I think in terms of squad planning, you pre-sign David. You look, Richarlison, you're not going to sell him in January, let's be honest, so because he's injured. So you pre-sign David for the summer. You get Richarlison fit. You get him as an option between now and the end of the season, and then in the summer you sell Richarlison. Hopefully, if he scores a few goals down the end of the season, that convinces someone to stump up a bit of money for him, and you place him on a free transfer with Jonathan David. I think that makes complete sense, and David, I think, would offer something different to Solanke, a different kind of option, a guy who's scoring goals at the moment. So I think I'd be up for it. Would David want to come here and be battling out with Solanke? That's up to him, but I think having those two strikers would be a really good options. or would he rather go to somewhere like, for example, if Newcastle sell Isaac, he becomes their number one striker, and maybe he would rather that. But I think from Tottenham's point of view, I think it makes a lot of sense. Does it make sense from David's point of view? That's what he's got to decide.
I think as well, like if you have Jonathan David battling out with Solanke, they're two very good strikers, right? And I feel like some games would suit Solanke more and some games would suit Jonathan David more. I think it could be a really good rotation option to have, and obviously lightens the load off Dominic Solanke as well. In terms of Richarlison, we knew there was interest from Saudi in the summer. Obviously, he didn't want to go. But with the way his season's going at Tottenham, do you reckon maybe he looks at it in a more positive light going to Saudi?
I still think he's young enough where he thinks he's got unfinished business in Europe, to be honest. And I know he's got bad
You can go to
injury
Saudi
problems.
and come back. You know, if you go, it doesn't mean you.
Yeah, but he's 27. If he goes there, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know where his head's at. He could have gone last summer, I think, but I think he didn't want to go. So with the season he's had, I still think he'll want to stay in Europe. But if there are not many European offers, and Saudi's the only one, and with how it's gone at the moment with Tottenham, he probably could do with a change of scenery. So maybe he'll think, yeah, I'll go there and show what I can do, and then hopefully come back to Europe. But I still think he would prioritise somewhere in Europe.
All right, well, there you have it. That is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories we brought to you. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.